So, in the first part of the Nextcloud series, we installed Nextcloud and got it set up and working with a domain name. Well, this video shows you what to do next. So once you've got your Nextcloud server all set up and working, it's time to configure the server and get the most out of it. And this video is going to be looking at the following 8 things. Filling out our user profile, then checking and fixing security and setup warnings, and a really important one, getting Nextcloud to be able to send email. And this video is going to be looking at using Gmail as the SMTP server, getting it working with that. Then we're going to be looking at setting up groups and users in Nextcloud. We're going to look at connecting and syncing to your Nextcloud server with your desktop PC. We'll take a look around Nextcloud's web UI and try and familiarize ourselves with that. Nextcloud's great because we can add apps, and we're going to be looking at adding some cool apps. And finally, we're going to be looking at customizing Nextcloud. So let's get started and fill out our user profile. Okay, so here I am on the Nextcloud dashboard. Now in the top right hand corner here, there's an icon which is our user icon. And at the moment, it's just got the first letter of my username. I'm going to click onto that and then go down to settings. Now on the settings page here, now because when we first install Nextcloud, the first user is an admin user, we're going to find 2 sections of settings here. At the top here are the personal settings, which are just for the user. And underneath that here, we've got the settings for the whole of the Nextcloud server, which will affect all of the users. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do under personal info here is fill in the personal info for my user. And I'm going to start with giving myself a profile picture. Now there's 2 icons here. The one on the right hand side would allow me to choose an icon from the files and folders that are already uploaded to Nextcloud. I haven't added anything, so I won't find an icon here that I want. So I'm going to click the icon to the left here to upload my own one. And I'm going to choose this one here and then click open. Now you'll see here when it opens the file, we can choose what part of the file we actually want to use. I want to use the whole thing, so I'm going to leave it like that. And I'm going to click choose profile picture. Okay, so now my profile picture's changed. And I no longer have the first letter of my username as part of my icon. So on this page, we can put in our full name, email, language, phone number, address, locale, website, and Twitter handle. So I'm going to fill that in now. Now you notice my phone number disappeared because I just put a random phone number in, like 12345 or something. Nextcloud knew that wasn't valid, so it didn't accept it. Obviously I didn't want to put my real phone number in, but when you guys set it up and put a proper phone number in, it's going to work fine. Oh, but actually for our phone number to work correctly, there's something else that we need to do as well, which we'll do in just a moment. So with the profile page filled out, now I'm going to go down to the administration section and click onto overview. Now it's doing a system security check here, and we can see with a fresh install, I've got these 2 errors here. The first one here, the strict transport security, this is something we have to change inside of the reverse proxy. And this second one here, saying that there's no default phone region set, this needs to be changed inside the Nextcloud conf.php file. So I'm going to change both of these now. So to do that, I'm going to go back to the Unraid web UI here, and I'm going to open the terminal window. And here I'm going to edit the proxy configuration file in Swag. So I'm going to type nano space /mnt/user/appdata swag nginx proxy-confs and the nextcloud.sub domain.conf. Okay, so I'm going to add something to this file. I'm going to go down here and just underneath this line where it says include, I'm going to paste this line here, which as normal you'll find listed in the description. Okay, so Ctrl and O to write the file, enter, and Ctrl and X to exit. Okay, so now we can close this window, and as we've made a change to Swag, we need to go back to the Docker tab and restart the container. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to Nextcloud, and I'm going to refresh this page, and then hopefully this first warning will be gone. Okay, great, so that's cleaned up that error. So now let's go ahead and set the default phone region. So again, I'm going to go back to the Unraid web UI, and I'm going to stop Nextcloud, then open the terminal window here, and I'm going to type nano space /mnt /user /app data Nextcloud www Nextcloud again config, and then the file config.php. And then I'm going to go down the file here and make a new line. Doesn't really matter where you put it. I'm going to put it under the trusted proxies here and paste this line in. Again, it's in the description. As I'm in the UK, my country code is GB, but for you guys in the US, obviously it would be US. Okay, so with that done, Control and O to write out the file, enter, and Control and X to exit. And let's close the window. So with that change made, we can now restart up Nextcloud and wait a couple of minutes for it to start. And I'm going to refresh the page. And great, now all the checks are passed and everything's good. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is make it so that Nextcloud can send out email. And to do that, I'm going to go to basic settings here. And here we can enter an SMTP email server. And Nextcloud can use this to be able to send out things like notifications and messages to the various Nextcloud users. So basically here, we can put in any SMTP mail server that we have access to, put in its credentials, and then Nextcloud will use that email address to be able to send out email. Now obviously I can't show you how to set it up for every email provider, but I will show you how to set it up for Gmail and use Google's SMTP server. And again, when using Gmail, you can use your own Gmail that you may use every day, or like I have here, just set up one specially just for this purpose so as to keep things separate. And as you can see here, for the purposes of this video, I've set one up here called spaceinvader.testing@gmail.com. Now here you can see the incoming and outgoing mail server settings for Gmail in this chart here. But before we go trying to put any of these settings in, there's a few things in Gmail which we need to check are enabled before we can move forward. So in the top right hand corner here, I'm going to click onto the cog and go to see all settings here, then forwarding and pop IMAP, and I'm going to make sure that IMAP's on here by clicking enable IMAP. And I'm going to scroll down and click save changes. By default, Google doesn't allow access and sending emails from things that it calls less secure apps. So what we have to do is either create an app password, and an app password is a specially created password by Gmail that's used specifically only with that app. So it means you don't have to use your normal Gmail password, so it's quite secure. But to use app passwords, we must have two-factor authentication enabled. If it's not enabled when you try and use it, you're going to see a message like this. Now if you don't want to use two-factor, or you just don't want to use app passwords for some reason, then you can enable what's called less secure apps, which enables your normal Gmail password to be used with any app. And to do that, we have to go to the web address myaccount.google.com/less secure apps, and you turn that on here. So with this turned on, it will allow you to use your normal Gmail credentials in any other app. I personally would rather have a bit more security and use an app password. So I'm going to turn this off and click here to go to the home page of my Google account. I'm going to go to security and I'm going to scroll down, and here I'm going to enable two-step verification. Now I'm going to click get started here, and I'm going to have to verify my password. Here it will show your cell phone number, as it's going to send an SMS message to that number. So I'm going to click onto next here, and Google have sent a code. I'm going to pop that in and click next, and then finally here I'm going to click on to turn on. Okay, so two factors now enabled. So the next thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to myaccount.google.com/app passwords. Again, I'm going to confirm my password, and now app passwords are enabled. Under select app, I'm going to put other, and I'm going to call it Nextcloud mail server, and I'm going to click generate, and I'm going to copy this 16-digit password here and click done. Now I'm going to go back to Nextcloud, and I'm going to check here authentication required. Here it wants my Nextcloud password, so I'm going to put that in, and here I'm going to paste the password I just copied from Google. There's that 16-character password there. The username is obviously my email address. Now for server address, it's smtp.gmail.com, and port I'm going to use 587. Authentication method is going to be login, And the from email address, obviously that's the email address I'm sending from. Send mode, we leave it on SMTP. And for encryption, I'm going to use start TLS. Okay, so with that done there, I'm going to click on to save. And now I'm going to test the email settings by clicking on send email. That should have sent an email to the account that I'm logged into, this administrator account here, to the email address that you put into the personal info for the admin account. So if I go over and look at my emails, and here you can see I've received the email here telling me the email configuration is correct. So that's great. So with the email working, let's go back to the Nextcloud web UI. Okay, so now Nextcloud can send email. It's time to add some users to Nextcloud. And to do that, I need to go up to my icon at the top here, click onto it, and go down here to users. Now we can see here at the moment the only user is the admin user that we set up when Nextcloud was installed. And this user is a member of this group here, the admin group. So at the moment, we've got two groups, an everyone group and an admin group. So to add a new group, obviously you just click add group, and you can put something like family, office, whatever you want. So once you've got the groups created that you want to have, then it's time to add a new user. Now when you add a new user, if you want to automatically add it to a group, just make sure the group's selected here to which you want to add it to. I'm going to add a user to the office group here, and I'm going to click the add new user button here. And for the username, let's have Peter Griffin. And the display name I'm going to keep it the same, but it can be totally different if you want it to be, but it's always the username that you log in with, not the display name. And we need to create a password for this account. And here we put in the email address. If I wanted to add this user to any other groups, I can click on here and add to any other groups I want to. And also we can set it as an admin for other groups as well. So if I wanted Peter Griffin to be an admin for office group, I could select that here. And as well, we can give quotas for users. At the moment, this is set to the default quota, but here I can choose different quotas for how much space the user is allowed to use. I'm going to give this user unlimited quota, and I'm going to click add new user. Okay, so now under the office group, we've got Peter Griffin here. So I'm going to add one more user. Let's add Homer Simpson. Again, the display name the same and create a password. Now I'm putting in an email address here, but you don't actually have to do that. But obviously no email address, and Nextcloud can't send a welcome email to the new user. And as Homer Simpson's so reliable, I'm going to add him to the admin group as well. And this time, for quota, I'm going to have 100 gigs. With that done, I'm going to click add a new user. And so now we've got Peter Griffin and Homer Simpson. And now if we look in the admins group, there's now two admins here. There's me and there's Homer Simpson. And in the office group, there's also two users there too. Okay, so now hopefully, because we put the email addresses in here, Nextcloud will have sent these users an email to let them know they've been added to Nextcloud. And so now I'm going to go and check the email here. And here we can see that Peter Griffin's received an email saying your Nextcloud account was created. And it tells the username what their username is. And it gives the option to install a Nextcloud client or just go straight to Nextcloud with this button here. So here I'm going to click go to Nextcloud. And I'm going to log in as Peter Griffin. Now obviously the password isn't sent to the user in the welcome email. So you're going to have to get the password to the user some other way. And so here we are logged in as a new user. Now there's one thing you'll notice with this user. If I click on the user icon at the top here and I go to settings, this user only has the settings for itself. There's no admin settings here because this user isn't an administrator. And you can see with the profile, it's partially filled out with the details that we put in when we created the user. The rest of the details are just filled in by the user. Now if we go back to the top right, to the user's icon here, you can see that I've still got a section users here. Now because Peter Griffin, I set him as an administrator for the office group, he can add new users. Now he's unable to add new groups he doesn't have permission to do that, but he can add a new user, but only to the Office group. So because Peter Griffin is an admin for Office, he's allowed to add users to the Office group. And also Peter has permission to delete users and have full control over all of the users in his group. Now if I was to log out here and log in as Tom, again Tom gets his own welcome page, and if I click onto his user icon at the top here, you can see here, because Tom is not an administrator for any group, he only has his own settings here, and that's about it. Now if we go to Homer Simpson's email here, instead of going to Nextcloud, let's install a client. This link takes us straight through to the download for desktop section of the Nextcloud website, and here I'm going to click onto Windows and download the install file. So with that done, I'm going to run the file and go through the wizard here. With the wizard done, I'm going to click onto Finish and then quickly reboot the PC. And once the PC is rebooted, I'm going to click on the icon on the desktop to start up Nextcloud. And here it says I need to log into Nextcloud, so I'm going to click onto that. And here we need to put the address of our Nextcloud server and then click Next. If you get a warning about an untrusted certificate, just check Trust this certificate anyway and click OK. That will then bring us in a page for us to be able to log in and connect this desktop client to our user account. So I'm going to click Login and log in with Homer Simpson's username and click Login. Okay, so instead of logging in, we get this window here saying Grant Access. We want to click onto that and it says the client should be connected and we can close the window. Okay, so next here we've got 3 different ways of being able to sync data from the Nextcloud server to the local folder on our computer. So the one at the top, which is default, is to use virtual files instead of downloading things immediately. So this basically puts a placeholder file for each file that's on the Nextcloud server, and then when you access it, it pulls it down. And the other 2 options are pretty obvious: to sync everything from the server or to choose what you want to sync. Okay, so we can see everything synchronizing now. And if I click on this folder icon here, it will open the folder for Nextcloud, and any files that I put in the Nextcloud folder here will be uploaded to Nextcloud. And now with these files here, anything with a tick is actually locally on the computer. Anything with a cloud hasn't been brought down to the local computer as yet, but clicking on any of these files here and opening them basically will download it, and you'll see the files change to a tick. So this is useful, having it set this way, in order to save space on the client. Okay, so let's close this now, and let's go back to Homer Simpson's email. And now I'm going to log back into the web UI for Nextcloud and log in as Homer Simpson. And here I am at the welcome page. I'm going to close this, and at the top here, next to dashboard, if I click onto files, in the web UI I can see all of my files. And if I scroll down here, you can see here are the files that I uploaded from the client. One thing to notice with the Homer Simpson account here, if you remember, I set him as an administrator. So if I go to settings here, not only have I got personal settings, but also administration settings as well. So basically be careful with who you grant administration rights to, as they have full control over the server. And because he's an admin user, he can delete any users he wants to, even admin accounts. Okay, so let's log out of Homer's account now and then log back in as me. And we'll just quickly go through the items on the default Nextcloud header here. So at the moment we're on dashboard, which basically gives an overview of our Nextcloud server. We saw the files tab earlier. Obviously this shows all of the files that our user has access to. Photos here. This is a nice photo gallery app, allowing you to see your photos. and here activity. Here it shows the activity on the server. Because I'm an admin, I can see all activities, but normal users will only be able to see their own activity. Next here is Nextcloud Talk. This allows communication between Nextcloud users. It can be video chat, voice chat or text chat. And mail here. This is an email client here that allows us to connect to an email account. I'm going to connect mine now quickly. So basically we just put in our IMAP settings here. Now obviously put in the details for your email, and if you're using Gmail, it'll be exactly the same as what we did earlier in this video. You're either going to have to enable less secure apps in Gmail or make an app password. Okay, so here are my emails here. I've only got 2 emails in this account because after this video I'm going to delete it. Okay, so moving on, next here we've got contacts. So we can basically add contacts and store them in Nextcloud. Then finally here, calendar, we've got our Nextcloud calendar. Now in a future video I'll show you how to connect your calendar to your computer. Now let's move on, and the great thing about Nextcloud is we can add apps to it. So here if I click apps, obviously you have to be an administrator to do this, and here we can see all of the apps that are installed presently on this Nextcloud instance. If I scroll down to the bottom here, here are some apps that are installed but they're not enabled. Now one important one I'm going to enable is this one here called external storage support. I'm going to click on enable with this one, and I'll be making a separate video how to set that up. So as well as enabling apps, obviously we can disable any apps that we don't want. And on the left hand side here, we can see various apps that we can install. I'm going to click on customization here, and I'm going to install this one here, Splash, which will generate a random background from Unsplash. And also I'm going to download and enable this one here, external sites. Okay, so here are the 2 plugins I've installed. So to use these plugins, I'm going to click on my user icon at the top here and go to settings. And now if I scroll down here, you can see here's the external storage one that I enabled earlier. And now if I go on to theming here, this is obviously where we can make changes to the theme of Nextcloud. And if you look at the bottom here where it says random background images, that's where we change the settings for Splash. We can set random background images for the login background. We can set one for the header image. In fact, you can see at the top there's a different header image than there was before. And also for the dashboard if we want to. So whilst we're here, on the theming, we can change the name of what comes up. I'm going to call this Space Cloud. The web link here, you can put whatever web link you want in. And slogan, I'm going to put not selling your data. Okay, so there's various other things you can customize here as well. So now to see the customization properly, I'm going to log out. And we can see we've got a nice background from Unsplash, and I think looking a lot nicer than the standard blue background. And at the bottom here, we've got Space Cloud, not selling your data. If I was to click on this here, it will go to the link that we specified. So I'm going to log back in. And here we are back in Nextcloud. Now we can see here that the dashboard background, this is the standard one because I didn't change it. If I click onto my icon here and go to settings, because I've installed that plugin, under the personal user settings, if I go to Splash here, then I get the option here to choose whether to have a random header background, and also to be able to choose whether to have a dashboard background. Now you'll notice under the personal user settings here, I can't change the actual login screen because that's only set by an administrator. But now if I go back to the dashboard here, you can see I've got a nice background for the dashboard. Okay, so let's go back up the top here and go to settings. And I'm going to scroll down here. And here you can see external sites. That's the other plugin that I installed. If I click onto this, I can add websites to be clicked on from the top here. So what I'm going to put here is I'm going to put Unraid website, and I'm going to put in the Unraid website address here. Now you can see at the top here, there's a new icon that says Unraid website. However, if I click onto it, you can see here it says unraid.net refused to connect. So I'm going to click back here, and I'm going to click on these three little dots at the side, and a lot of sites don't allow embedding, and this is true for the Unraid website. So I'm going to check this here, and now if I click on the icon, it will open it in a new page. Now the only problem is if you want to go back to Nextcloud, you have to either put the address in again or click on the back button. Okay, so I think that will wrap it up for this video. In the next video, we're going to be looking at how to connect our other shares on the Unraid server directly into Nextcloud using the external storages plugin. So keep a lookout for that video. Anyway guys, if you enjoyed this video, then please hit up that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and to all of my awesome Patreons and supporters out there, thank you guys for supporting me. I really do appreciate it. Without you, I really wouldn't be able to make these videos. Well, it's getting late here and it's time for me to go, but whatever you're up to for the rest of the day, I hope it's good, and I'll catch you in the next video.